y'all. Hope you're having a great morning so far. I wanted to come on today and talk to you about how important it is to trust yourself. And it's so easy to take just a lot of little mishaps that we experience throughout the days and let them accumulate in our mind and turn into reasons to not trust ourselves, or to even minimize how powerful our mind really is, and how powerful we are in general, especially when we try to stay attuned and tuned into the inner guiding system that we have inside of us, right? Our gut, so crucial, and we're going to talk about that today. So, like, for example, this morning I wake up and I always try to leave the house with, like, at least this much water. Ideally I have my larger cup full, but I couldn't find the lid. So I just, I made this makeshift lid, and it fits, but it doesn't actually like connect and screw on. So it's just like sitting here, and I kind of thought the color combination was pretty though. But yeah, I'm hopping in the Jeep, and it just tilts over, and because there's no true seal, it just pours out all in my lap. And you ever noticed, I swear it feels like when you have something like that happen first thing in the morning, it's like a guarantee that you're going to have 2 or 3 more things like that happen, just like right in succession. It's like just crazy. But anyway, yes, it's very easy to not give yourself credit for all the reasons that we should trust ourselves. And especially if you still have someone in your life that's trying to make you doubt yourself. I mean, of course, that's going to be a huge struggle, but we're going to talk about all that today. Just kind of a casual chat, and hopefully motivating and eye-opening. And I'm going to give some examples as we go through the topic today. And I'm not saying that these are my experiences, but I'm also not saying that they're not my experiences. So just take from that what you will. So the first thing is, we've mentioned before signs from our body, because a lot of times that's the first red flag, and we never want to deny those red flags that come from our body first. Again, it's like our mind sometimes has to catch up, and I think it's because our mind, especially if you're an open-minded person, you're operating like as your baseline with your mind just expanded anyway. And I mentioned before, I try to never make assumptions. I fail sometimes. Sometimes it's automatic, out of fear and different things like that, or just not having the whole picture or context or whatever. I think it's human nature to a degree, but I think it's great if you can work to try and not make assumptions. But anyway, my point is, all around the world, what is my point? Oh yeah, the mind sometimes having to catch up, right, with the body, and the body being the first to react. And so it can kind of shock you sometimes when you find yourself experiencing strong bodily reactions to a situation. A lot of times you don't really know what these reactions from your body are in response to. You can't really even pinpoint, and it's like you're trying to apply logic, but it doesn't make sense yet. And that's where they don't come up with these sayings that last throughout time for nothing. Like hindsight is 20/20, right? It's true. And so and that's why I say the older you get, the more experiences like that you have with hindsight, and you can just see how right your intuition was all those times that you didn't listen to it, you know what I mean? Or that you didn't tune into it. Maybe you didn't even check. Maybe it wasn't that you didn't listen to it, but maybe you didn't even check in with it at all. So that's what we want to work on, is just strengthening that connection. So some examples of just a couple of how your body can react strongly. Did you know that you can actually experience what seems 100% to you like the room is spinning. Yes. And obviously there can be medical reasons for this. I think there's like an inner ear issue, like with your balance, with vertigo, different things like this, right? But especially if it's coupled with other symptoms like an upset stomach, you know, all the time, or a racing heart. You know, there's all these other symptoms, but I'm talking about like the main one that gets your attention. Yeah, that can be anxiety. And if you've never experienced it and it just comes on you suddenly, it can really be shocking. And it's one of those things where it's your body telling you to pay attention to your experience, whatever's going on currently in your life or in that moment. And it may be something, it may be a situation where you should pay attention to what's going on, but maybe you don't even know to pay attention to what's going on because of your conditioning growing up in your childhood. Maybe you were conditioned to ignore what other people might look at and immediately be able to tell is just really toxic behavior. So sometimes you just don't know what you don't know, and that's why it's so important to pay attention to your body. And so you might even like journal privately and securely, right? Because always thinking of safety first. But you might journal, what was going on in that moment or that day or that week. And especially like when you notice something like this starting in your life, and then you may take that to a therapist and say, I'm not sure what's going on. I mean, after you get medically evaluated, right? Would certainly recommend that first. But let's say everything checks out, right? And so your doctor in that case will probably say it is anxiety. And then at that point you can dive in and try to figure it out, as opposed to just ignoring it. Because that's my point. We don't want to, like I said, deny these red flags that are coming from our body. They're there for a reason. So that's just one example. Another example would be just something developing and you don't know why, such as raising a spoon or a fork to your mouth when you're eating, and you just start trembling, but you don't tremble any other time. No other time. You don't have the shakes, right? You're not going through any kind of drug or alcohol withdrawals, or and again, there's no other times. You can write totally fine, everything's good, but when you go to raise that fork or that spoon to your mouth, your hand just starts, this is a real thing that can happen to you. And this is just an example of how, in hindsight, a person who's experiencing this may find out that their food or drink was tampered with, or was being tampered with on the regular. And the body knew, but the mind had not figured it out yet. There had not been evidence discovered at that point. So just some things to think about. We talked about yesterday pacing ourselves, right? And how important balance is, and when you've been living out of balance for so long, how we need to give ourselves grace and exercise patience to get our footing again, to get grounded again in balance as a part of our healthy lifestyle. And here's an example of pushing yourself past safe boundaries, but doing so by putting your trust in the hands of another. Okay? Because again, our focus today is the importance of trusting ourselves, right? So yes, this is actually something that I can tell you I experienced. So when I was a teenager, I took karate, and I was going through an exercise in class with the instructor, who was having us stand at the railing and hold on with one hand and to do a side kick, but to hold the side kick still, okay, in place. And the instructor was walking around. Now this instructor had had been doing this for many years, right? So it's one of those things where you automatically assume you can trust. The situation turned out that he was going around and just kind of correcting everyone's sidekick, standing sidekick that they were holding in place, which is not easy to do if you're trying to keep your form, because the sidekick is not meant to be held, right? Not to my understanding anyway. It's meant to be just a quick, one and done kind of thing when needed. And so what happened was, I was doing this exercise, and he lifted my leg that was out to the side a good bit higher than what it was, and I felt something in my supporting leg. I felt something odd, but it didn't hurt. I just noticed it. It caught my attention. And as time went on, I realized that even 20 years later, I actually was impacted greatly by what seemed like something totally innocent. And what happened was, I was pushed beyond a safe boundary in my body. And I'm thankful and grateful that it wasn't worse than what it was, but it's something that has impacted me, for a great portion of my life. My capacity for flexibility and to change like positions, if like with yoga or dance or any kind of exercise, my limits have been altered. And it's something where, again, it's just an example, and sometimes you can't prevent every bad thing from happening, right? I mean, that's common sense. I just want to acknowledge that I understand that, you know what I mean? But this is just an illustration of, what it means to place your trust in the hands of another. And so we just have to be really careful with that, and always trust ourselves first. Because if I had been older and not so naive, then I would have spoken up and said, well, this is as far as I can go, or just kind of show me where you think it should be. I would have known to voice myself and prevent this from happening. So the more the better you are. And so we always want to keep growing and learning forever, and just be a student of life forever, for the betterment of our lives and those that are close to us, right? So yes, sometimes there are just bizarre comments or experiences that can come from people that you thought you were close to, or that you thought that you knew. And this is again where, it's I think we all let our guard down to some degree once we feel like someone is trustworthy, but it doesn't mean that we stop trusting ourselves first. And so I'm going to give you some examples. One is a situation where you have one person who thought they knew another person, but they always had a feeling. Again, it's like gut check, you know what I mean? But there wasn't any evidence yet, so it was like, well, it's easy to minimize that feeling, that gut feeling, until the evidence pops up. And so sometimes it's in the form of a comment, and the comment made in this situation between these people was just looking straight in the eye and saying with all seriousness, I want your life. And talk about creep factor. Yeah, have you guys ever seen a Single White Female? I can't remember the actress's name. It's Jennifer something. But yes, it's one of those things where, you may have a couple of friends walking and saying, like, man, I want your life. You got it so easy, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? That's different. I'm talking about, like, and so sometimes it takes a comment like that in a friendship, and some kind of connection, a work pal, somebody in your family that you've chosen to get close to, whatever situation it is, even a romantic relationship, partnership, marriage, whatever. Once there's a comment made that catches your attention, again, because we don't want to deny any red flags, then that sometimes is all it takes to open your eyes and to make you start paying attention. And then you might start to utilize hindsight and be able to go back and realize that your gut did catch all these other things in the past, but you just didn't spend the time to give them credibility. You know what I mean? And so it's really a good thing when you can catch this kind of stuff early enough before you've been put in danger, because it's just a fact of this reality that it is a dangerous reality, and we don't want to be naive. And I want to talk about a couple of things here about reframing weakness and being naive. But before I go into that, I want to give another example. You know, sometimes even between friends, there can be things like envy and jealousy. If both of you are kind of in the same situation, and then suddenly one of you, like you know, you have your life is changing for the better. You know, there's some kind of blessing that's happening in your life, you know, and sometimes your friend can see this and be envious of this. And it's a hard thing, because I feel like someone who truly loves you and cares for you is going to be happy for you. And so you have to sometimes look at evidence in actions, not in their words, because they may say they're happy for you. They may pretend to be excited for you, when in reality, there can be bizarre experiences happen like this right here. You might be going down the road with them one day and notice that they're suddenly starting to drive erratically. Maybe they've never done this before. Maybe they're just kind of like, cutting people off in traffic quickly and speeding up, and you look over and you see this look on their face, and you say, what's wrong? And they're like, nothing. And you very quickly realize, oh, we were just talking about this new blessing in my life, or whatever it is. And I remember them a couple of weeks ago making a joke about, I wish I could say the same for myself, or whatever it is. And you realize, you thought you knew this person, but maybe they're starting to enter into a state of psychopathy. You see what I'm saying? Maybe they are capable of being dangerous, and this is something you've never considered. So please take situations, experiences like this, comments like this very seriously, because you never know when a person may snap. And this could be someone that you thought you knew. So I just encourage you to, again, trust yourself, because your life truly does depend on it. And so I didn't want this to be a heavy and scary and depressing video, but these are serious topics, and it's important to me that I share things like this with you. And there's a lot more I could share with you, and I will, over time. But I just want to get you thinking about it, and understand how important that is. And so we want to prevent ourselves from being a target, not just of cruel treatment and patronizing comments and snide and rude behavior, and exploitation, not just from all that, but also we want to prevent ourselves from being a target with regards to danger. And so it's I have actually experienced someone kind of just fading away out of my life and not understanding why, and then realizing that as I have been openly coming into this information about narcissism, and I've been voicing this, I can look back on my connection with this person I considered an acquaintance, somewhat of a friend, and I can totally see this pattern of behavior in them, and I'm like, okay, now I get why they've backed off, because they don't want to be exposed. So it's just an incredible journey to experience all this, So a lot of times when we're with a person who is very cruel, who is trying to get us to doubt ourselves, we can view the term weakness as from the lens of like a cruel, like self-deprecating viewpoint that we've adopted, when the way we want to reframe this term for our protection is weakness with regards to that connection between our intuition and our mind, right? We want to make sure that connection gets restored fully and is strong and not weak. So, anytime you hear these terms that may in the past have triggered you, and because they were used against you, you know what I'm saying, to break you down, I want you to now be able to reframe these terms for the purpose of making yourself strong and rebuilding yourself. So whenever you hear that term weakness, I want it to resonate with you as something to as part of your armor, keeping your armor strong, keeping that connection to your intuition strong, and understanding that it's a normal process for that to become weakened when you were subjected to cruel treatment for a long time. You know what I mean? That would make anybody's connection to their intuition and trust in themselves become weak. Okay, so just understand that you're not weak because it happened to you. That was their intent, right? To make that connection weak. So you just want to strengthen that. And then, of course, as we continue to educate ourselves from a positive lens and trusting in ourselves, moving forward with faith in ourselves and also in a higher power, if that's part of your belief system, we just want to have an anticipatory, what I call an anticipatory awareness, right? We don't want to anticipate danger in a way that makes us approach life with paranoia or with any kind of negativity in our heart, any kind of bad emotions in our heart, where we just expect the worst from people and we just kind of have a negative outlook, a cynical outlook. We don't want that to happen. We don't want that to develop, right? We want to keep all the positive things secured in our heart behind our armor, right? They're there, and we know they're there, but we just want to make sure that we are operating in a way that they're secure, and it's good for people to understand that you are not naive, and you're not weak in regards to trusting yourself. I think it's good that people can see that you trust yourself first and foremost. So that's just something to work on. Just some motivation for you, some encouragement, inspiration, I hope. And I just thank you guys for listening today, for walking the path with me. And I hope that you have a beautiful day, and I will see you again very soon.